when the new Army Chief of Staff, General Datuk Asahan, took office. He specially gave an important warning, emphasizing that the entire army must abide by the core values of integrity and honesty in the performance of their duties. This warning is not an empty moral requirement, but based on the special mission and responsibility of the defense forces after receiving General Asahan at the Istana Negara. His Majesty stated clearly in a Facebook post that corruption is the #1 enemy of the defense forces. Strength and credibility, and any form of abuse of power or dereliction of duty will not be tolerated. According to a report by the Malaysian national news agency Bernama on January 7, 2026. This content was disclosed based on the scene of General Asahan's inauguration on January 1 as the core force defending national sovereignty and security. The credibility of the defense forces is directly related to public trust and national stability. If there is corruption, it will not only erode the combat effectiveness of the forces, but also shake the public's confidence in national defense. Therefore, the construction of integrity has naturally become a top priority for the Army's development. His Majesty also emphasized that integrity in leadership must start from the highest level, and the Army needs to be a model of honest, transparent, and responsible governance. This requirement establishes a guiding principle for the construction of integrity at the leadership level. Only when the senior management takes the lead in setting an example can the entire Army form a sound atmosphere of integrity. It is worth noting that His Majesty has repeatedly emphasized that there should be no agents or intermediaries in the defense forces before. This repeatedly reaffirmed position directly points to potential loopholes in interest transfer in defense affairs and delineates a clear red line for the Army's integrity construction. General Datuk Asahan officially took office as the 31st Army Chief of Staff on January 1, taking over the important task of Army construction. His Majesty's warning has clarified the core direction for his tenure and laid a solid foundation of integrity for the future development of the Malaysian Army. The ultimate goal is to make the Army continue to gain the respect and trust of the people and better assume the sacred duty of defending national sovereignty and security. At the same time, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar has focused on the overall national development and governance. He emphasized that the strength of the Madani government comes from the seamless cooperation between various political parties, down-to-earth work and a pragmatic style without grandstanding. All parties need to work together to implement the national development agenda and ultimately achieve the fundamental goal of benefiting the people. To promote national development and international exchanges, Anwar arrived in Ankara, the capital of Turkey, at 12:13 a.m. local time for a 3-day visit. According to an official announcement by the Prime Minister's Department of Malaysia released before January 5, 2026, the purpose of this visit is to strengthen bilateral cooperation. During the visit, he had dinner with more than 200 Malaysian citizens living in Turkey, during which he not only conveyed the government's policy direction, but also expressed confidence in the country's future development. Anwar clearly stated that the government will continue to implement various established plans and will increase efforts to help the younger generation learn new technologies such as artificial intelligence through the cultivation of faith and good morality. In the era of rapid technological development, the overall quality and technological capabilities of the younger generation are directly related to the country's long-term competitiveness. This initiative of the government not only focuses on building a moral foundation, but also emphasizes the cultivation of technological skills. It aims to cultivate a new generation of talents with both good literacy and innovative capabilities for Malaysia, injecting lasting impetus into national development. Anwar also pointed out profoundly from a historical perspective that the rise and fall of a country's civilization or society depends largely on values, beliefs, idealism, and the public's enthusiasm for building the country together. This view reveals the key role of spiritual cohesion in national development. A country lacking common values and enthusiasm for construction can hardly maintain vitality in the complex international competition. At the same time, he also issued a serious warning that the decline of a country often starts with deep-rooted corruption and neglected poverty. These two phenomena will eventually erode moral values and social solidarity. This warning echoes the young di-Pertuan Agong's emphasis on integrity, highlighting the Malaysian government's high vigilance against corruption and attention to people's well-being. It also sounds an alarm for the governance path of the Madani government and clarifies the bottom line and direction of efforts that must be adhered to. After focusing on Malaysia's situation, let's take a look at the progress of a case in Penang. The hit-and-run incident at the toll station in the northern suburbs of Butterworth, Penang, which occurred at the end of last year, has made key progress after a period of investigation. The Western food vendor suspected of intentionally injuring a doctor was formally charged at the Magistrates' Court in Bukit Mertajam on the same day. However, he clearly pleaded not guilty to the charge, and the case has thus entered the subsequent judicial trial process. As shown in the official court announcement of the Bukit Mertajam Magistrates' Court in Malaysia, released before January 5, 2026. According to the details of the charge announced by the court, the 32-year-old defendant Kavi committed the alleged offense on the evening of December 28 last year, at the area in front of the Bagan Lure toll station on the Butterworth Outer Ring Road. At that time, Kavi intentionally hit a 32-year-old doctor in this area. Instead of stopping to deal with the accident, he forced his way through the toll station and fled at high speed. His act has clearly violated Section 324 of the Malaysian Penal Code, the crime of intentionally causing harm to others with dangerous weapons. This crime has clear sentencing standards in Malaysia's judicial system. Once the court finally convicts the defendant, he may be sentenced to imprisonment for not more than 10 years, or a fine, or caning, or a combination of two or more of the above punishments. It can be seen that the nature of this act is quite serious, which has constituted an open infringement on the personal safety of others and a challenge to the legal order. During the trial of the case, the defendant has always insisted on pleading not guilty. After comprehensively considering the circumstances of the case, the court approved the defendant's bail on the condition of Rm 5,000 plus 1 surety. The ruling on bail pending trial not only protects the legitimate rights and interests of the defendant, but also ensures the smooth progress of the subsequent judicial process, avoiding unnecessary detention affecting the efficiency of the case trial. The case was finally scheduled for mention on March 4th. This arrangement reserves necessary time for both the prosecution and the defense to further prepare relevant evidence and sort out the details of the case. The relevant information comes from the official court announcement of the Bukit Mertajam Magistrates' Court in Malaysia. The reason why this case has attracted social attention is not only because it involves serious acts of intentional injury and hit-and-run, but also because the victim is a doctors, as a professional group guarding the people's life and health. Their personal safety should be fully guaranteed. The intentional injury of a doctor on a public road in this incident has also triggered public discussions on public safety protection. From the perspective of the investigation and trial process of the case, Malaysia's judicial authorities have always followed legal procedures and treated every detail rigorously. The clear listing of charges, the clear notification of sentencing standards, and the reasonable ruling on bail pending trial all reflect the fairness and standardization of justice. In the follow-up, with the mention on March 4th, both the prosecution and the defense will further submit evidence and state their views, and the court will make a fair ruling based on facts and law. The trial result of this case is not only related to whether the legitimate rights and interests of the victim can be protected, but also will play a certain warning role to the society, clearly informing the public that any act endangering the personal safety of others and violating the legal order will be sanctioned by the law. At the same time, it also provides a judicial practice reference for the handling of similar cases. After focusing on this case in Penang, let's turn our attention to the international stage again. The Trump administration's strategic ambitions towards Greenland have recently sparked widespread controversy. The White House has officially confirmed that Trump is indeed discussing how to control Greenland and the use of U.S. The opening of this waterway will greatly shorten the maritime transportation distance between the East and the West, and has important shipping value and military strategic significance. Greenland is located at a key position in the Arctic region. Controlling the island means being able to take a dominant position in Arctic affairs and form a strategic deterrent to surrounding areas. From a resource perspective, Greenland has huge undeveloped rare earth resources. As an indispensable key raw material in modern high-tech industries, national defense industries and other fields, rare earths have self-evident strategic value. Controlling Greenland's rare earth resources will play an important supporting role in the development of the U.S. industry and the improvement of national defense capabilities. White House Press Secretary Leavitt clearly emphasized in a statement sent to AFP that capturing Greenland has always been one of the priorities of U.S. national security to respond to threats from Russia and China. AFP reported on this before January 5, 2026. This statement directly exposes the U.S. strategic intention to control Greenland, which is to curb the expansion of Russian and Chinese influence in the Arctic region by controlling this strategic location and consolidate the U.S. hegemonic position in the world. Leavitt also admitted that President Trump and his team are discussing a series of plans to achieve the diplomatic goal of controlling Greenland. And as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the use of U.S. military forces has always been one of Trump's options. This remark has further intensified international concerns about regional tensions. Faced with the U.S. ambition, many countries and regions have clearly expressed their opposition. In Europe, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Spain, and other countries have successively spoken out against it. These countries have consistently emphasized that Greenland belongs to Denmark, which is a universally recognized universal value in the international community. European countries will firmly defend Denmark's territorial sovereignty and oppose any country's act of infringing on the territorial integrity of other countries in any form. The local government and people of Greenland have also expressed strong resistance to the U.S. attempt. Greenland Prime Minister Nielsen recently emphasized again that the future of the island is determined by the local people themselves, and no external force has the right to interfere. The relevant statement was included and reported by AFP. AFP's interviews on the ground found that Greenlanders generally find it difficult to accept Trump's sovereignty theory. Some people even directly retorted that Trump should go back to make up for his history, clearly expressing their firm stance on their own autonomy and national sovereignty. Others said that what they pursue is mutual respect. They are willing to do business or establish friendships with anyone on the basis of mutual respect. But they will never tolerate the infringement of sovereignty. In fact, the United States already has a certain military presence in Greenland currently. The United States has a military base on the island, stationed with about 140 U.S. troops. This military base has become an important strategic outpost of the United States in the Arctic region. The data comes from an authoritative report in the January 2026 issue of the U.S. magazine, Air Force and Space Force. Trump has repeatedly publicly claimed that Denmark cannot guarantee the security of Greenland, so it is necessary for the United States to take control of this strategic location. This statement is obviously an excuse for the U.S. expansionist behavior and has been refuted by Denmark. Danish Foreign Minister clearly stated that the U.S. has misunderstandings about Greenland and hopes to hold talks with U.S. Secretary of State Rubio to clarify relevant issues and resolve differences. However, since Denmark put forward the meeting request last year, the U.S. has not given a positive response, which also reflects the U.S. tough attitude and unilateral tendency on the Greenland issue. As an autonomous territory of Denmark, Greenland has a high degree of autonomy, but still maintains certain ties with Denmark in fields such as foreign affairs and national defense. The U.S. attempt to bypass Denmark and directly control Greenland not only infringes on Denmark's national sovereignty, but also undermines regional peace and stability and the international order. Amid widespread international opposition and strong local resistance in Greenland, amid widespread international opposition and strong local resistance in Greenland. There is still great uncertainty whether the Trump administration's ambition to control Greenland can be achieved. But this incident has fully exposed the hegemonic nature of the United States and brought potential risks to the peace and stability of the Arctic region. Next, let's focus on news related to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. As the Russia-Ukraine conflict continues to ferment, the international community has taken important measures to promote the process of Ukraine's security guarantees. On Tuesday, member states of the Volunteer Alliance supporting Ukraine held talks with Ukraine and U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine Witkoff in Paris, France. The core topic of the meeting focused on how to provide long-term and reliable security guarantees for Kyiv after in-depth consultations. The Volunteer Alliance, composed of 35 countries, issued a joint statement proposing a series of specific security guarantee measures. After the talks, the United States made a clear statement for the first time, supporting the broad alliance composed of Ukraine's allies, and officially promised to provide security guarantees for Ukraine. The relevant statement was included in the report by Xinhua News Agency on January 6, 2026. This statement by the United States is of important symbolic significance. Although the United States has taken relevant actions in supporting Ukraine before, it has not made a clear statement on its position in the Security Guarantee Alliance. This public support will further consolidate the joint efforts of the international community in supporting Ukraine. Relevant U.S. representatives stated that the core clauses of the security agreement have basically been finalized. The importance of these clauses lies in making the Ukrainian people clearly know that once the conflict ends, it will be completely over and they will not face new threats. At the same time, the United States is also actively promoting a prosperity agreement for Ukraine, calling it the strongest prosperity agreement any country can obtain after such a conflict, aiming to help Ukraine achieve economic recovery and long-term development after the war. French President Emmanuel Macron emphasized during the talks that only by establishing a reliable security guarantee and peace agreement can the Russia-Ukraine conflict be fundamentally resolved. Ukraine will neither be forced to surrender nor face new threats. This view reflects the common demand of most participating countries, which is to achieve a complete settlement of the Russia-Ukraine conflict through peaceful negotiations and international guarantees, and maintain regional peace and stability. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warmly welcomed the formulation of substantive documents on security guarantees by Western allies. He clearly pointed out that this document is not an empty slogan, but an important document containing specific content and actual commitments, providing effective support for Ukraine. Zelensky's statement not only reflects Ukraine's gratitude for international support, but also reflects Ukraine's urgent need for security guarantees. However, Zelensky also objectively pointed out that the territorial issue in the ceasefire agreement is the most challenging part. The outbreak and continuation of the Russia-Ukraine conflict are closely related to territorial disputes. How to properly handle relevant territorial issues in the ceasefire agreement and balance the interests of all parties has become a key obstacle to reaching the agreement. At the same time, Zelensky emphasized that as long as Russia continues to attack Ukraine, Ukraine still needs external assistance to strengthen its air defense capabilities to better protect cities and key infrastructure and reduce civilian casualties and property losses. Currently, the Russia-Ukraine conflict is still ongoing, and Ukraine's air defense system is under enormous pressure. Key infrastructure has been attacked many times, which has seriously affected the normal life of the people and the country's economic operation. Therefore, external air defense assistance is crucial for Ukraine. The consensus reached and the security guarantee measures proposed at this Paris talk have brought new hope for resolving the Russia-Ukraine conflict. However, continuous efforts from all parties are still needed in the follow-up, especially to make breakthroughs on key issues such as the territorial issue. At the same time, it is necessary to ensure that relevant commitments can be implemented in place to bring real peace and security to Ukraine and promote the gradual stabilization of the regional situation. Finally, let's focus on a domestic incident in the United States. As the 5th anniversary of the U.S. Capitol riot approaches, this political incident that once shocked the world has once again attracted widespread social attention. On that day, many of the defendants who received a pardon from President Trump returned to the Capitol to hold a large-scale rally, continuously shouting the slogan "Patriots are innocent" and firmly defending their actions back then, according to an on-site report by the Associated Press on January 5, 2026. These rally participants emphasized that the action that happened on January 6, 2021, was not a riot as accused by the outside world, but a just act to defend justice and freedom. They attributed all the responsibility for the incident turning into a violent conflict to the law enforcement officers who tried to stop the demonstrators from breaking into the Capitol at that time. The rally participants publicly claimed at the scene that that whole thing was set up with not an insurrection. It's called a Fed insurrection, stating that there were a large number of federal agents and confidential informants at the scene deliberately inciting conflicts and provoking incidents, and they were just misled participants. At the same time, they repeatedly emphasized that we are all family men. We're all patriots, okay? We do the right thing. We're not criminals, we're not racist, we're not Nazis, trying to shape a positive image of themselves and get rid of the label of rioters. About 200 people participated in this rally. The rally participants marched from the departure point to outside the Capitol in strict accordance with the route of the riot on January 6, 2021, to express their gratitude for Trump's pardon and convey their political demands. The number of participants comes from an on-site report by the Associated Press on January 5, 2026. Let's look back at the incident on January 6, 2021. At that time, thousands of demonstrators supporting Trump broke into the U.S. Capitol, trying to prevent Congress from certifying the results of the 2020 presidential election by violent means. The incident caused several deaths and injuries, becoming a serious crisis in U.S. modern political history. After the incident, U.S. judicial authorities launched a large-scale investigation and prosecution. About 1,500 defendants were arrested, and some of them were sentenced to severe penalties for crimes such as inciting insurrection and illegal entry, with prison terms ranging from several years to more than 20 years. Some of them were sentenced to 17 or 20 years in prison only for simple illegal entry. This sentencing result caused widespread controversy at that time. After returning to the White House, Trump granted pardons to some of the defendants. This decision has also become a major controversial point in the U.S. political field. Supporters believe that the pardon is to correct judicial injustice, while opponents believe that it is a damage to the legal order. The defendants who participated in this rally stated that receiving Trump's pardon fully proves that their actions back then were correct. They are proud of their actions and have no regrets about participating. At the same time, they clearly expressed their demands, hoping that Trump will continue to speak out for more people who were sentenced for participating in the riot back then and promote their pardon so that they can regain their freedom. This rally is not only a collective voice of the defendants, but also highlights the profound division in U.S. society in terms of political positions and values. For the group that supports the rally participants, they agree with the statement of defending freedom and justice, believing that there was fraud in the 2020 presidential election, and the action back then was a reasonable protest. Opponents firmly believe that the incident back then was a serious trampling on the U.S. democratic system and legal order. The actions of the defendants should be sanctioned by the law, and Trump's pardon and this rally are both harms to democracy. The tense atmosphere at the rally site and the sharp opposition between the two sides once again reflect the severe status of U.S. political polarization. The subsequent development of this incident is not only related to the personal fate of the defendants, but also may have a profound impact on the U.S. political ecology, judicial justice, and social unity. becoming an important window to observe the operation of the U.S. democratic system.